Tell me if you have ever been in this situation. You're playing a game of Magic, you're having a grand old time, you're playing a deck where it seems like you're all playing just fun, fair Magic, and your opponent plays a demonic tutor. They go and they search up their library. There's of course no interaction that stops them. They go check it out. They go find the card in their deck. They don't have to reveal it to you because it's a demonic tutor. And then the next turn they untap and they play a huge spell that wins them the game. They play their win con. Maybe they play a giant creature. Maybe they play an overrun effect. Whatever it is. They just tutored for their win con and you kind of feel like you just got cheated out of that game. This has happened to me plenty of times. And you might go home or you might finish the game and you might think, dang, tutors are the absolute worst. They're unfair. They're not casual friendly, and they really just kind of ruin the whole experience, and you kind of feel cheated out of your time and your fun. Today, that's exactly what we're talking about, is tutors in EDH. Why you should use them, how you should use them, and when they're appropriate to actually be used. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Deck Driver, and let's go for a drive as we talk about tutors in EDH. If you guys are enjoying this content, please feel free to like and subscribe and comment down below what tutor is your favorite. Do you like a mystical tutor? Do you like demonic tutor? Maybe you like to gamble. Whatever it is, let me know in the comments below. Also, check out my Patreon in the link in the description where you can get an extra video every single week. And I can review decks that you possibly make, and depending on what tier, you can suggest a video of your choice. Thank you to all my current patrons, and I hope to see you all there in the future. Now let's get on with the video. So let's just address the elephant in the room. Tutors are typically expensive cards. When you look at the market price for something like Demonic Tutor and Vampiric Tutor, some of the best tutors in the game, they're quite expensive when it comes to their actual real life price. Upwards of $20 for most of these cards. Now, of course, you can get some of the green tutors for not so much. Some of the blue tutors are not quite as expensive. You know, Gamble's not really up there. But for the best in-class tutors in the best colors, they are really quite expensive. So that's one factor that we need to address, is that these are some expensive cards in real life. Now, expensive doesn't necessarily mean bad. Of course, you can go and you can proxy these cards. And honestly, I'm not necessarily against doing that either. But we also have to find a reason why we should play these cards. So let's think about it. They're not usually played in casual. And they're not played in casual for a very specific reason. Sometimes they ruin the game with an unnatural level of consistency. And like the example that we talked about in the beginning of the video, sometimes you can feel a little bit cheated out of a game because, oh, I found my tutor, which lets me tutor up anything in my deck depending on the card type or depending on what type of deck I have. In most cases, a tutor in a casual game typically means you're going to win the game. You know, in something like CDH, oftentimes you'll sometimes see some crazy tutors for a land if you're really land dry, or a mana rock that just needs to get you over the edge. That's because tutors are commonplace in that format and can really be truly used how tutors should be used, which is I need to find a card that I'm lacking right now because the rest of the deck is already optimized enough. Now, of course, in CDH, you do the same thing. Sometimes you just need to tutor for your win con because usually there is a one card win con. But for the most part in CDH, tutors get a bit more flexible, which is what I think they were supposed to be. But in a casual setting, tutors bring an unnatural level of consistency to most decks. I personally have been in the situation of playing a game and I have some tutors in my deck because I'm like, this is going to allow me to figure out and find what I need in every single game. But I've been in the situation where, you know, you have the tutor and you're like, oh, I have the tutor. I'm just going to go get my win con. And you get the win con and you win the game and it's just kind of boring. Depending on the table, though, this can be very nice. Sometimes you're looking to win as quickly as possible. This is why it's usually played in higher power pods to CEDH pods. Because of the level of consistency that tutors bring you, you're typically using them when you're trying to win. And in other cases, usually in more casual settings, you just want to draw into your win con, or your deck is just trying to do a certain thing and it doesn't really matter whether you win or not. And that's totally fair. When you look at tutors themselves, each tutor is essentially a second copy of any single card in your entire deck, depending on the card type, of course. So we've established that in many cases, tutors are not really welcome at casual games. They're typically reserved for more high power games or CEDH games. We've established that in many ways they can kind of cheat the experience as a one card win condition or a way to tutor up any single card that you possibly need is kind of an unnatural level of consistency that most decks will lack. And we've also gone over the fact that these cards on their own are quite expensive. And while proxying does exist, in most cases, people want to own the cards in person, and having to pay so much money for a tutor for possibly 1 to 2 decks is really just not realistic for most casual Magic the Gathering players. So then, what should we do if we do want to run tutors? How do we make it so that tutors aren't so bleh? I've got a few reasons as to why tutors are pretty great. So we've talked about an unnatural level of consistency that tutors bring to your deck. However, I want to kind of establish something that might not be thought of as much. What happens if you literally only have one card in your entire deck that helps you win the game, or that is essential to your strategy? If that is the case, then in most cases, tutors is probably going to be a really great idea for you. Let's say I have a Simic treasure deck that wants to turn all my treasures into really big creatures and I swing out from there. Well, let's say I only have 2 ways to actually get that to happen. My deck will be extremely inconsistent, as trying to find 2 cards in my entire 99 card deck is not really going to be possible. So maybe in this case, if I want to turn my treasures into something and I need these specific cards to do the thing in the first place, sometimes these tutors can be actually valuable to me. Does it mean that I'm going to win the game more than not? Possibly, as this is my main strategy. Turn treasures into creatures. But without the tutors that can help me get here, my deck doesn't really do anything at all. So let's say I have 2 of these ways to turn my artifacts into creatures, and then I just add 2 tutors that can help me get these cards specifically. Now my deck technically has 4 ways of achieving this goal, and I think that's plenty. These tutors also can help me in the later game. Let's say I already draw into one of these 2 cards. Well, now these tutors can go help me find a way to protect myself, maybe a way to ramp in the early game. I have some removal in forms of creatures. Now the tutors become the flexible things that they need to be, which contributes to a more fun and fair Magic the Gathering game, because I'm not stopping my opponents from doing the thing by tutoring up a straight up win con, and I'm still allowing myself to have the flexibility that's needed that can come from these tutors. So when you only have a few ways of actually doing the thing in your deck, sometimes tutors can be a way to help you do this. Now let's think about how flexible we can make our tutors. Another way you can run tutors is when you have a deck specifically built around the card type of tutors you're trying to play. Let's say I'm playing a mono green stompy deck, and each of the creatures in my deck have a different function. Some of them count as removal. Some of them count as ramp. Some of them give me the overrun effect. They all have different ways of helping out my deck, and I can use these tutors now as a sort of toolbox. Am I lacking removal right now, and is there a big threat on the board? Okay, I can tutor out for that. Is the game wrapping up and I need to find a way to at least push my advantage as much as possible at the later stages of the game? Cool, I can go find that overrun effect. Is it the early game and I really need to get to the point where I can tackle my other opponents in terms of ramp and keep up? When you have just a few tutors that are looking for the specific card types that are based around your deck, that's when tutors really make the most sense. Having tutors in your deck just because tutors are a good card is not a super valid way of running these cards. I think playing them with intention and playing them with the flexibility in mind and building around this flexibility and consistency make the tutors feel a lot more alive in your deck and like a real card rather than just a second copy of whatever you need. This is so that the tutors can feel like they're actively contributing to your deck rather than just be a win now card. Tutors are only boring if your deck is built in a boring way. If your deck is to go as wide as possible and then overrun as quickly as possible, that's fine and there's nothing wrong with that. But it depends on the setting that you're playing in. If you're playing in a casual format, maybe stray away from using tutors so much. Having ways to make these tutors feel alive in your deck is a super important part of Magic the Gathering. Tutors are great. I've given you plenty of reasons as to why some people feel the way they do about tutors, and I think these are all valid as to why you could exclude tutors from your deck. But I think if you go about playing these tutors in a healthy way, they become a lot less salty and they become a lot less boring in your deck. Having multiple options for these tutors to pick from and having your deck built correctly so that they have the flexibility to be tutored up for multiple things is what's going to make these tutors feel a lot more fun to play. So the next time you're building a deck and you ask yourself, should I run tutors? Ask yourself this question: how many ways of doing the thing do I have in my deck? And do these tutors make sense in my deck? Do they have enough targets to actually go for? Or is this tutor here just to get a specific card for me? Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you guys enjoyed it, please like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know in the comments below what your favorite tutors are to run in your decks, and when you personally like to run them. I'd like to take this time now to thank all my patrons. Thank you Red Toter, The Lassocrat, George Vazanellis, Philly123, Chris Smith, Son of Zygote, Ruby Storm, Raphael DDL, Hayeo, and Justin. Thank you all so much for watching and your continued support of this channel. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are interested in supporting the Patreon below, just know we've got 3 different tiers that all get you different benefits. So go check it out and feel free to just become a member. Thank you guys all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.